Excuse me, ma'am, there seems to be some mistake. This seat has been reserved by someone else. The flight attendant's voice dripped with condescension as she loomed over Nia Johnson, who was already seated in first class. Dressed in a tailored, navy blue suit that screamed professionalism, Nia looked up calmly but firmly. "I'm sorry," she replied, her tone steady despite the tension brewing inside her. "This is my assigned seat. I have the boarding pass right here." She held it up, her name and seat number clearly visible. The attendant barely glanced at it. Instead, she turned toward the aisle, scanning for anyone who might claim otherwise. Nia felt eyes on her, curious glances from other passengers, some disapproving, others indifferent. Before she could say more, a man's voice cut through the air. "Oh, this is my seat," he said smoothly, his smirk evident even before he appeared in her line of sight. Nia clenched her jaw, refusing to give ground. "I don't think so. My ticket confirms—" "Let me handle this," the attendant interrupted sharply, cutting off Nia mid-sentence. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it, with an unspoken assumption that Nia didn't belong. Passengers began whispering among themselves, their murmurs creating a suffocating atmosphere. Some seemed sympathetic, while others exchanged knowing looks, silently siding with the attendant. Nia's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. Just as frustration threatened to boil over, footsteps echoed down the aisle. A new presence entered the scene, one no one expected. The man approaching carried himself with an air of entitlement. His expensive leather bag swung casually at his side as he slid into the conversation without hesitation. "This is ridiculous," he said, addressing the attendant rather than Nia. "You're telling me she belongs here?" He gestured vaguely toward Nia, his tone dismissive. Nia's blood ran cold. She opened her mouth to protest, but the attendant spoke first. "Sir, we're sorting this out. Please bear with us." Bear with them? Nia thought bitterly. Why should he bear anything when she was the one being humiliated? Other passengers started chiming in now, their opinions splintering like cracks in glass. "It's probably just a mix-up," one offered weakly. Another muttered under their breath. "Maybe. She got upgraded by accident." No one questioned why the white man automatically assumed ownership of the situation, or why the attendant deferred to him so readily. Nia sat rigidly, gripping the armrests. Every word hurled at her felt like another layer of injustice piling, on top of years of similar encounters. But before she could respond, something shifted in the cabin. A collective hush fell over everyone as a figure strode forward, commanding attention simply by existing. And then, shock rippled through the crowd. "Ms. Johnson!" The deep, authoritative voice rang out, silencing every murmur instantly. All heads turned to see the airline CEO standing near the entrance of the plane, his polished demeanor radiating confidence. He walked straight toward Nia, extending his hand warmly. "We're honored to have you on board," he declared, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. For a moment, time froze. Passengers exchanged bewildered glances, their earlier certainty crumbling. Who was this woman they'd dismissed so easily? And why did the CEO know her personally? Nia rose gracefully, shaking his hand while masking her own surprise. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice carrying a quiet strength. The attendant stammered, clearly flustered. "Sir, we were just resolving a misunderstanding." "No need to explain," the CEO interjected firmly, his gaze sweeping across the crew. "Ms. Johnson is a valued client. Ensure her experience reflects that." As the attendant retreated, shamefaced, whispers erupted again, this time tinged with disbelief. How had they gotten it so wrong? But behind the scenes, questions lingered. Why had Nia faced such hostility in the first place? What made her stand out, not just today, but in her everyday life? Her mind drifted briefly to countless moments where she'd been treated as though she didn't belong, not because of her actions, but because of perceptions shaped by skin tone and societal bias. Those memories weren't far behind her. They were woven into the fabric of her existence. And as the plane prepared for takeoff, those memories began surfacing once more. Naya remembered the sting of a senior executive interrupting her during a pivotal presentation. "Are you sure you understand what you're talking about?" he'd asked, his tone laced with doubt. She'd swallowed hard, forcing herself to continue. When the meeting ended, two colleagues whispered nearby. "She's too aggressive for corporate culture," one remarked, unaware Nia could hear every word. Aggressive. The label clung to her like a shadow, used to undermine her assertiveness. Meanwhile, lighter-skinned co-workers received praise for exhibiting the same traits. Then there was Rachel, her supposed ally, who often told her, "You should lighten up, people will take you more seriously." Lighten up, as if toning down her personality or altering her appearance would erase years of prejudice. These microaggressions piled up over time, eroding her patience. At networking events, people gravitated toward others who fit their idea of professionalism, code for lighter skin, softer voices, and less confrontation. Once, during a business trip, security detained her for hours over a minor passport discrepancy. Her co-worker breezed through without issue, leaving Nia fuming. Each incident chipped away at her spirit, yet she refused to let them define her. Still, the weight of these experiences followed her everywhere, even onto this flight. Now seated in first class surrounded by strangers quick to judge, Nia couldn't help but reflect on why moments like this hit so close to home. They weren't isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a larger system designed to exclude. But as turbulence rocked the plane, jolting her back to the present, Nia realized something crucial. This wasn't just about her. It was bigger than that. Something was coming, and she wasn't backing down. The turbulence subsided, but unease settled in its place. Nia glanced around the cabin, noting the lingering tension between herself and the crew. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She thought about her decision to book this trip, hoping for a break from the toxicity of corporate America. Yet, here she was, embroiled in yet another battle against systemic bias. If they think I'm backing down now, they have no idea what's coming. Her resolve hardened as the implications sank in. This flight wouldn't just be a journey to Paris. It would be a reckoning. Little did she know, forces beyond her control were already aligning, setting the stage for a confrontation that would ripple far beyond this single incident. And as the plane soared higher, so too did the stakes. Despite the CEO's intervention, the tension on board remained palpable. A different flight attendant approached Nia with a tray of drinks, deliberately serving everyone else in her row before finally reaching her. "Here you go," the attendant muttered under her breath, her tone laced with disdain. "Some people think they're entitled just because they wear fancy clothes." The words hit like a slap. Nia stiffened, her grip tightening on the armrest. She leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with the attendant. "Excuse me?" she asked, sharply, her voice cutting through the hum of cabin chatter. The attendant froze, realizing she'd been overheard. Passengers turned to watch, some leaning closer, others pretending not to notice. "I said," Nia continued, her voice steady but edged with steel, "you owe me an apology. Right now." The attendant hesitated, clearly unprepared for such direct confrontation. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, glancing around for support from her colleagues. But the damage was done. Murmurs spread among the passengers. Some nodded sympathetically toward Nia, while others exchanged skeptical looks, as if questioning whether she was making too much of a minor remark. Nia's mind flashed back to another incident years ago, security, detaining her for hours over a passport issue so trivial it bordered on absurd. Meanwhile, her lighter-skinned coworker sailed through without a second glance. These weren't isolated events, they were patterns. Patterns that reinforced the same message: you don't belong here. Her resolve hardened further. This wasn't just about one snide comment. It was about dismantling the assumptions behind it. And something told her this fight wasn't going to end quietly. As the flight wore on, Nia noticed subtle signs of unease among the crew. They kept glancing at their phones, whispering urgently to each other whenever they thought no one was listening. Finally, a junior attendant cracked under the pressure. Approaching Nia with forced politeness, he blurted out, You're the same lady who filed all those complaints against our company, aren't you? The question hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. Nia raised an eyebrow, refusing to let him see her discomfort. And if I am? She countered coolly. The attendant shifted awkwardly, his confidence wavering. Well, we've been instructed to keep an eye on you. Make sure nothing happens that could... He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Nia felt a chill run down her spine. So this was deliberate. The airline hadn't addressed her previous reports of discriminatory practices. They'd retaliated instead. Labeling her as difficult and flagging her profile ensured she'd face hostility every time she flew with them. Passengers nearby began picking up on the exchange, their expressions ranging from shock to anger. One man leaned over, addressing the attendant loudly enough for others to hear. What exactly are you accusing her of? Just doing her job by reporting discrimination? The attendant flushed red, stumbling over his words. It's not like that. I'm just saying there's history here. History. That single word carried layers of meaning, years of systemic bias, unchecked privilege, and institutional resistance to accountability. For Nia, it crystallized everything she'd endured silently for far too long. She clenched her fists beneath the table, determination burning within her. If the airline wanted a show, she'd give them one, but on her terms. Little did she know betrayal awaited her next. Mid-flight, Nia's phone buzzed softly. Glancing at the screen, she saw a text notification from Rachel, the person she'd trusted most in corporate America. Her heart sank as she read the message. I heard about your outburst on the plane. Maybe you should tone it down. People are starting to talk. Rachel's words hit harder than any insult from the flight crew. Tone it down? After everything Nia had shared with her, the microaggressions, the dismissals, the outright discrimination. This was her advice? Nia stared at the screen, disbelief giving way to hurt. Had Rachel leaked her complaint history to the airline? Was this why the crew seemed so eager to discredit her? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to respond, but she stopped herself. What could she say to someone who clearly didn't understand, or worse, didn't care, about the deeper implications of staying silent? Just as despair threatened to overwhelm her, a soft voice broke through her thoughts. Excuse me? Came a gentle whisper from across the aisle. Nia looked up to see an elderly white woman leaning toward her. Her eyes were kind, filled with quiet understanding. I've seen how they treat you, the woman murmured. Don't let them win. The simplicity of the statement struck a chord deep within Nia. For all the hostility surrounding her, there were still allies willing to stand up, even in small ways. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away. This wasn't the time for vulnerability. It was the time for action. With renewed focus, Nia reached for her phone, not to reply to Rachel, but to document every injustice unfolding around her. She wouldn't let this moment slip away unnoticed. Nia opened her phone and began recording discreetly, capturing every interaction with meticulous precision. When turbulence struck and the captain announced safety protocols, the attendant seized the opportunity to deny her water, claiming it was too dangerous to serve her. Oh, really? Nia asked aloud, her voice carrying just enough sarcasm to draw attention. So why is everyone else getting served? The nearest attendant flushed, caught in the act. Nia tilted her phone slightly, ensuring the camera captured the exchange. Passengers started noticing. One man called out, "Why isn't she being treated equally?" His question echoed through the cabin, forcing the crew to squirm under scrutiny. Another passenger chimed in, louder this time. Yeah, this doesn't seem right. What's going on here? The ripple effect was undeniable. More voices joined in, questioning the crew's behavior and siding with Nia. Even those who'd initially dismissed her grew uneasy as evidence mounted of preferential treatment based solely on race. By the time the plane began its descent, Nia had amassed a trove of footage documenting blatant discrimination. Each clip added weight to her growing case against the airline. Yet even as hope flickered, Within her, Nia knew the hardest battles lay ahead. Landing meant facing whatever consequences awaited her, and confronting the systems designed to protect themselves at all costs. As the wheels touched down, adrenaline surged through her veins. Whatever happened next, she vowed to hold her ground. The plane taxied to a halt, and passengers began gathering their belongings, eager to disembark. Nia rose from her seat, ready to put the ordeal behind her, until two security officers appeared at the gate. "Miss Johnson?" one of them asked gruffly, gesturing for her to step aside. "We need to speak with you." Nia's stomach dropped. "About what?" she demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Allegations," the officer replied vaguely, avoiding eye contact. "You've been accused of threatening the flight crew." A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. Passengers exchanged bewildered glances, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Threatening the crew? The accusation was absurd, yet here they were, detaining her publicly while others walked free. "This is ridiculous," Nia snapped, refusing to move. "I haven't threatened anyone. Show me your evidence." The second officer stepped forward, his tone hardening. "Ma'am, please come with us quietly, or we'll have no choice but to escalate this further." Fury bubbled inside Nia, but she forced herself to stay composed. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about exposing the truth. She scanned the crowd, searching for someone who might intervene. Her gaze landed on the airline CEO, still lingering near the gate. Taking a deep breath, she raised her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "If you want to accuse me of something, fine, but I'm not leaving until I speak directly to him." The officers hesitated, clearly unprepared for such defiance. Passengers murmured their support, emboldened by Nia's courage. Reluctantly, the lead officer radioed for confirmation, buying her precious time to prepare for the confrontation ahead. Whatever happened next, Nia knew she wouldn't back down. Not now, not ever. Moments later, the CEO approached, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Johnson," he began, his tone measured, "what seems to be the issue?" Nia locked eyes with him, her resolve unwavering. Without a word, she pulled out her phone and pressed play. The recorded footage filled the tense silence. Every dismissive remark, every discriminatory action, every attempt to humiliate her captured in stark detail. Gasps erupted around them as passengers watched, horrified. The CEO's face paled, his carefully maintained composure cracking under the weight of undeniable proof. This can't be right," he stammered, turning to the attendants for explanation. But they stood frozen, unable to deny what they'd done. Passengers began voicing their outrage openly. "How could you let this happen?" one man shouted. "She paid for first class like the rest of us." Another added, "This isn't just about her. It's about how you treat all people of color." The CEO looked trapped, realizing the enormity of the scandal unfolding before him. His reputation, and that of the entire airline, was hanging by a thread. Nia seized the moment, addressing the growing crowd. "This isn't just my fight," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "It's about every person who's been told they don't belong because of their skin, their voice, or their identity. Today we stand together." Applause erupted, followed by chants of her name. Even some of the flight crew looked ashamed, unable to meet her gaze. In a rare display of accountability, the CEO turned to the lead attendant. "You're fired," he announced coldly. "Effective immediately." But Nia knew this was only the beginning. As cameras flashed and reporters swarmed, she prepared to take her message beyond the terminal, to the world. Reporters surrounded Nia as she stepped off the plane, microphones thrust toward her face. "Ms. Johnson, what do you have to say about today's events?" She paused, taking a moment to gather her thoughts. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of years of struggle. "This isn't just about one flight or one airline," she began, her words deliberate and powerful. "It's about systems built to exclude, to marginalize, to silence. For too long, people of color have been told we don't belong, not just in first class, but in boardrooms, classrooms, and communities. But I'm here to tell you that we do belong, and when we rise together, we can dismantle these systems, piece by piece." Cheers erupted from bystanders, many recording her speech on their phones. Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations far beyond the airport walls. Even amidst the chaos, Naya noticed subtle shifts. Some reporters nodded, thoughtfully. Others scribbled furiously, eager to capture her perspective. Social media lit up with hashtags like Stand with Naya and Justice for All, amplifying her message exponentially. Yet even as triumph coursed through her veins, Naya remained grounded. This victory was significant, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. There were still battles to fight, truths to uncover, and voices to uplift. As the crowd dispersed and the media frenzy subsided, Naya received a notification on her phone, a mysterious email promising revelations that would shake the aviation industry to its core. Back at headquarters, the CEO scrambled to contain the fallout. Firing the lead attendant had been a start, but public outrage demanded more. He issued a formal apology, pledging sweeping reforms to eliminate discriminatory practices within the company. "We will hold ourselves accountable," he promised, during an emergency press conference. No excuses, no delays. While skeptics questioned whether these promises would translate into real change, others saw it as a turning point. A rare instance of corporate accountability spurred by individual courage. For Nia, however, this was just the beginning. She knew true justice required sustained effort, not hollow gestures. As she reviewed the anonymous email awaiting her attention, she realized the fight against systemic racism extended far beyond one airline, or even one industry. Little did she know, the revelations contained in that email would ignite a movement. Unlike any other, Nia opened the anonymous email with cautious curiosity. Attached was a document titled Internal Correspondence, Anti-Discrimination Initiatives. As she scrolled through its contents, her stomach churned. The emails revealed a damning truth. For years, the airline's CEO had funneled funds into anti-discrimination campaigns, but only for public relations purposes. Behind closed doors, he actively blocked meaningful reforms, ensuring that discriminatory practices persisted unchecked. "This is why nothing ever changed," Nia muttered under her breath, her hands trembling with anger. The hypocrisy was staggering. While the CEO posed as an advocate for equality in glossy press releases, his actions told a different story. Realizing the leverage this information gave her, Nia made a decision. She uploaded the documents to social media, tagging journalists and activists who could amplify the message. Within hours, the scandal exploded online. Headlines blared across news outlets worldwide. Airline CEO caught faking anti-racism efforts. Systemic discrimination unmasked by passenger advocate. Under mounting pressure, the board of directors convened an emergency meeting. By evening, they announced the CEO's resignation, citing irreparable damage to trust and integrity. For Nia, the victory felt bittersweet. The man responsible for perpetuating systemic racism had fallen, but countless others like him remained entrenched in power. Still, the tide was turning. Airlines worldwide began implementing accountability measures, spurred by fear of similar exposure. As messages of gratitude poured in from strangers inspired by her courage, Nia allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. This wasn't just about one company. It was about dismantling the structures that upheld inequality everywhere. But her journey was far from over. Back at her marketing firm, Nia walked into the office expecting awkward silence, or worse, indifference. Instead, she was met with applause. Colleagues of color approached her, their eyes shining with admiration. "You've given us hope," one coworker said earnestly. "We've been afraid to speak up, but seeing you fight back gives us strength." Others shared stories of their own experiences. Microaggressions dismissed as jokes, opportunities denied without explanation, promotions awarded to less qualified candidates simply because of skin tone. Each account reinforced how pervasive colorism remained in corporate America. Amid the outpouring of support, Rachel approached hesitantly. "Nia, I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was helping." Nia cut her off mid-sentence. "Helping?" she repeated sharply. True allies don't betray you when it matters most. They stand beside you even when it's uncomfortable. Rachel flinched, unable to respond. For all her talk of solidarity, she'd failed the ultimate test. Nia turned away, unwilling to waste another moment on someone whose loyalty was conditional. Instead, she focused on fostering genuine connections with those who understood the fight ahead. Together, they formed an informal coalition dedicated to challenging workplace discrimination, not just within their company, but across industries. Empowered by newfound purpose, Nia prepared to deliver a message that would resonate far beyond the confines of her office walls. Standing before a camera setup in her living room, Nia took a deep breath. Her monologue would be streamed live to thousands, perhaps millions of viewers eager to hear her perspective. Colorism isn't just about skin tone, she began, her voice steady yet impassioned. It's about power. Who gets to decide? Who belongs? Who deserves respect? These questions shape our lives every single day. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. From classrooms to boardrooms, we're taught to shrink ourselves, to lighten up, to soften our voices, to conform to expectations designed to exclude us. But enough is enough. Her gaze intensified, locking onto the lens as if addressing each viewer personally. If we want a better world, we must challenge these systems. We must call out injustice wherever we see it, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away. This fight isn't easy. It requires resilience, courage, and unity. But together we can create change. Together we can demand accountability. The chat flooded with supportive comments. Thank you for speaking up. You're inspiring so many of us. How can we help? Nia smiled faintly, touched by the overwhelming response. Start small, she advised. Speak out against microaggressions. Amplify marginalized voices. Hold institutions accountable, not just with words, but with action. Her final statement hit like a thunderclap. Truth and dignity always prevail, but only if we fight for them. So keep fighting, keep standing tall, and remember, none of us are free until all of us are free. As the stream ended, viewers erupted in applause, sharing her speech across platforms. Hashtags like Tarchu challenge the system and Char stand with Nia trended globally, sparking conversations about race, privilege, and justice. Yet even as accolades poured in, Nia reminded herself of the work still ahead. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but she'd ignited a spark that refused to fade, and as she powered down her laptop, she knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. Before signing off, Nia addressed her audience directly. Have you faced discrimination while traveling? Share your story in the comments below. Let's shine a light on these injustices together. She leaned closer to the camera, her expression sincere. What would you have done in my situation? Keep watching to see how justice is served, and consider what role you'll play in creating a more equitable future. Subtly promoting her next video, she added, if you found this story inspiring, click here to learn more about overcoming workplace racism. Together we can dismantle these systems piece by piece. Her closing remark carried both urgency and hope. Racism still exists in so many forms, but silence lets it thrive. Help us spread awareness by liking, sharing, and engaging with this content. Finally, she ended with a rallying cry. No matter the injustice, truth and dignity always prevail. Stand strong and let's build a world where everyone truly belongs. As the screen faded to black, viewers were left not just informed, but inspired to take action. This story isn't just mine, it's ours. If you believe in justice, like this video to amplify the message. Know someone who needs to hear it? Share it with them and spark change. Ready for more inspiring stories? Subscribe to stand with me as we challenge racism and inequality together.